pretty much a loose dirt floor, at least in the riding part of it. So we've talked before about the grant through Agriculture Department, Kentucky, about a farmer's market. There's some money that possibly we could latch onto there. I talked to Ryan Quarles a couple of times. He's, I think, would be very supportive of looking really favorably at an application for that. But then also have it open for whatever else. We could let people come in and do yard sales from time to time. We could let vendors come in and sell things. I personally don't like the idea of selling socks and underwear and, little kind of junk. But, we just need to kind of decide where we want to head with it. Get some, I think it would be important to get some community input. What's the community think they would want, that sort of thing.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sounds like a dual purpose type of facility. And I'm thinking with just what you talked about, Judge, there's a lot of possibilities, but I think we need, going back to what Steve said, get some people in there, let them know what we want to do, and then see how that will lay out. You said something, it has to be, for lack of a better term, horse friendly. Is that because it was deeded that way, or what? Yeah,
there's a requirement in the deed from Mr. Carson back years ago that the park be used for equine purposes. Okay. I don't know if that's probably not a quote, but I don't think that means that this one building has to be. Right. It means the general usage of the facility. Of course, we got, a track out there, horse track, and got barns, so it might be that's sufficient. I don't think anybody will probably ever challenge it, but I just like the idea of being able to use it for lots of things, and then also want to be sure and include we've got a good board out there, Carson Park Board. They certainly would be interested. Several of them are horse people. They certainly would be interested, I think, in having the widest range and maybe even focus on some kind of equine facility. There's not in downtown area and then within the city limits, there's no covered riding area. It would be kind of cool, I think, to have something like that right, near center of town, owned by the county, but we could develop whatever we want.
Just to follow up, you mentioned the board. I've been here a long time. Has it ever been used for what it was deeded for? I don't ever remember any events out there, equestrian style events.
Yeah, we've had rodeos. We've had horse shows. They're not real frequent. There's ongoing, I don't know, what is there, 3 horse barns out there, Steve?
3 barns are full. Plus during the fair, there used to be, and it's getting to be less and less, but the harness racing track is still in use.
Okay. But I think the brainstorming session will be in order getting some folks, let them know what we want to do with it, and then see how fluent that would, that those ideas would tie into the original purpose.
So the deed says, and I've got it up here on my screen, that the property is to be known as Luthen Carson Park, and is to be used for fairgrounds for holding county fairs, exhibits of livestock, and farm products, and for training, exercising, exhibiting, and racing of the light breeds of horses and ponies and for horse shows.
Period.
I'm sorry.
Period.
Yeah, period.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think this, but I think with all the other activities we have for horses, I don't think there's anything in the deed that requires us to replace this structure and make it equine friendly. Nothing says we can't, but obviously Floor Hall doesn't have any. There are other purposes of Carson Park in the deed beyond horses. I guess I'm trying to figure out, well, how big would you have to build something indoor, and what would be the event? I've just not been to an indoor horse event in my lifetime.
Well, you know, before we tore that old barn down, we looked at the possibility of strengthening it, and it was going to probably cost more money than it's worth to, well, it was going to cost more money than it's worth. That's why it's gone now, to do anything much with it. And it's important in a horse riding facility that there not be a 10-inch by 10-inch beam that you'll catch your head on as you ride your horse around. Some of us who like a tall horse and tend to sit tall in the saddle, as they say. You gotta have a building that's sufficiently tall. Can't have the beams in the middle. So that's what we call the free span. So it'd be a completely open area. You don't want to hit your head. You don't want to get drug off into a beam either. So, I mean, it's just a place to start, but I just
don't know what I don't know what the end users are. If that's a thing to stable a horse and ride it indoors. I guess I've seen something similar on Yellowstone, but that was a pretty big building. So,
Judge, didn't we have some money in the budget to spend a little bit of money to hire a consultant to help kind of identify needs for the area for not only equine, but other kinds of recreation that would fit in there? I thought we had a little bit of money in there to do that and to put together some kind of an overview plan. It might have been a year or two. I mean, it's been a couple of years since we had it in there, but did I recall that, Eddie? Do you remember that?
We did. I think it was 2 years ago. We wanted to spend about $25,000 and hire somebody to help lead this discussion. And I don't think we ever. I think we got distracted by sports tourism
and COVID.
And COVID. That's right.
I think the ultimate use really dictates the sizes of any structure that you want. Is it recreational horsing, or is it you actually want to bring in tournaments? Just like baseball fields, you have different sizes for different age groups. Different size stadiums are required for different types of tournaments, whether it's indoor dressage or whatever. So it's you have to, what long term do we want within that park makes a lot of sense as a question.
I see a lot of logic in having something outdoor that works for smaller music festivals than what Tunes was, and outdoor events, like the idea of a farmer's market there. I personally have not had the life experiences that would justify spending money on an indoor horse structure without some sort of market analysis that there would be there would be a benefit to the community in that would create some sort of level of tourism. But
I just think we need. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to remind the commission, while you're correct, we budgeted some funds a couple of years ago, but we have continued to carry funds forward. We have money in the budget sort of a placeholder amount of money. So if we still were wanting to get a design professional to assist with the conversation, we're budgeted for that.
I think that'd be a great idea.
I agree. I mean, if you could put together an RFP that, and before you put it out, if we could look at it, maybe, have an idea of where we're headed, because somebody, there might be some use that we would never think of, that some professional would say, well, this has really worked well in Sheboygan, and you may want to do that here, so I think it'd be good if we spend a little bit of money just to help maybe identify some of the potential uses. And again, I don't think it has to be solely having to do with anything with equestrian. I like the judge's idea of multi-use, where you could, have the farmer's market. It's going to be gone pretty soon downtown. There's not going to be a farmer's market like there is now. So, and that'd be a great location for a farmer's market if as part of anything we do, because of the great parking out there. So I like the idea of spending a little bit of money and helping to come up with ideas.
I don't have a problem with that. That sounds logical.
Well, we can talk internally, see how, see who's out there that help us. I think we got 25,000 or thereabouts, Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Do that.
Yeah, if you come up with an RFP, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah. Okay. All right, we'll work on that and have something maybe in a couple of weeks or 4 weeks or so. See what we're going to do then. All right, then put on here for sports tourism. I think the sports tourism folks are making good progress working. And of course, Steve Irvin is our person with a liaison and working with them closely and helping guide them, I think, toward the good results. And Steve, can you bring us up to speed on what's going on?
Sure. Right now, we're really in the end stages of the schematic design update. The interlocal agreement was signed, I believe, in the end of October. The next 4 months, we're going to be updating the preliminary design and the schematic design, and we're about 2 weeks off from that. So I would expect, if not at the next meeting coming up of the fiscal court, the one after, there will be some type of presentation kind of showing you where we're at. There has been deviations from the original master plan, but for the most part, it's very similar. One of the things that we have done that has come about in the last several weeks is we purchased 2 pieces of property at the end of Metcalf Lane. I believe it's 142 and 158, number 18 and 19 on that map right there. And what that purchase has done, you can see how close that is to the grandstand. It has allowed us to consider a major infrastructure change by not going around to the north side of the property and maybe taking the internal infrastructure or road from Downs Road directly up to Stuart Nelson Park, which is cutting down on a lot of lineal feet of roadway construction. So those 2 properties have been secured. We closed this week and last week on those. As I said, we're in schematic. We're really looking, we're starting to get into the details on the types of fields, the types of amenities, the fencing, all those types of things are starting to be discussed. As soon as we get done with the schematic design, we'll be immediately getting into the final design services that will last another 10 to 12 weeks. And that's really refining some of the things I just talked about and really getting into start looking at stormwater, the grandstand, FF&E, all the fixtures and the structures, really starting to figure that out before we get into the construction documents, which follows final design services, and that lasts about 4 months. And then after that, we get into bidding and negotiation. If you remember in the interlocal agreement, certainly we're going to be coming to the fiscal court here soon to talk about the schematic design to kind of give you an idea of where the Sports Tourism Commission as well as the working group are moving. But if you remember the interlocal agreement, at the time we get to bidding, construction documents are complete. At that point, we'll be coming back to the fiscal court with official approvals from you all to move forward before we go to construction. As throughout this entire process, there'll be cost estimating going on. There'll be lots of different things happening.
While Steve will bring back the completed conceptual plan, I don't want to leave anybody with the thought that it's been the park has been completely rethought. It hasn't. It's largely in the same form. I think what's interesting and reflective of the business decisions that SFM has helped with is that there are no dedicated fields. They're all multi-purpose. And I think that was an early concept when we were talking to Commissioner Jones. You'll have to remind me the name of Gill's company.
Norm.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name of his company, but it was Norm Gill,
Pinnacle report was the, yeah.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
which was only $15,000.
But the working group made up of city officials, county officials, as well as the Sports Tourism Commission, SFM, and then the design team led by Peck Flanagan, Warren, and Bacon Farmer have all been working together weekly. We had the design meeting every Thursday, and then immediately following that, we have a working group meeting, which is just the local representatives. So, and each week we get a lot of progress is happening.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Everybody good?
Good.
All right. Thanks, Stevie.
Yes, sir.
All right. And then on our another topic we'll bring up is investment opportunities. We have some cash that is sitting. We don't have any burning need for it. Been talking with Steve Doolittle and Pam Thompson about what's an appropriate resolution to that money. We need to put it in some sort of investment. How much do we need to put in and for what term? Interest rates have creeped up substantially in the last little bit, and so we can make a little more money than what we have been making if we invest it wisely, but also cautiously. And so Steve and Pam, they'll come up with some guidance for us.
Yeah, I'll start. So I guess the first thing I'd like to put out there is that Pam and the judge made a change. I guess it's been about a year ago, and how we managed our overnight funds at our bank. We had collateral agreements where they had to keep a lot of cash in the bank on our behalf due to a change in state law, and in discussions with Paducah Bank, who we do our banking with. We put our overnight dollars, if you will, into something that we call a sweep account. So instead of the money sitting just in Paducah, I don't even remember how big the network of banks is, Pam. It's a fairly substantial number of banks that the money gets spread out to overnight. The advantage there is it's within what the federal government still insures, so we're absolutely secure, but it's very responsive to interest rate changes. So while traditionally with just Paducah Bank itself in our no fees account checking, we weren't making very much money at all in checking, but we have last month I think our Pam did a little report for me. In December, we were 3.88% in our sweep account. So as we talk about some of these different investment options, we're not talking about going from zero. We're talking about how much can we do and how better we can do above the current 3.8 sweep amount. And that changes every month. So I don't want anyone to think we're not getting any interest off our overnight funds, because we are. And in talking with a couple of different groups here in town, it's really a conversation of how aggressive do you want to be. And my recommendation is we ought to enter into some short-term arrangements, a year or less, without a whole lot of tolerance for a lot of risk, where we would be in treasuries, CDs, and possibly federal government agency funds. So think of the different agencies the federal government has, and you can invest money in them and get a return a little bit above the bank. So in those discussions, what we're seeing are investments around 4.2%, or 20 to 30 basis points greater than we're getting from the sweep account. Not a big change in interest, but with the amount of money and how long we can leave it is where that really comes into play. But I think what I'm looking at, and certainly what Pam and I are comfortable with, is doing a combination of shorter term T-bills and up to 1 year T-bills, and maybe even mix in some combination of CDs. According to one of the advisors we talked to, there's sometimes some really good CD rates that they see pop up. We do have the additional complication with CDs now. A July 1 Kentucky change that those banks have to have a physical presence in Kentucky. So state law says that, our administrative code says that. So we'll have fewer opportunities to invest in some of the better looking CDs that come around. We just can't be in that market. We can buy CDs, but they'll just have to be from Kentucky banks. So we have 2 proposals in, and one of the things that you'll see immediately is that if you're talking to them about, I'm just interested in some combination of treasuries and maybe some agency funds, that those interest rates, those maturities are the same regardless of who you're working with. What you're really picking or looking at is what are the fees they're going to charge us, and what kind of a long-term relationship you want with them. So, questions, comments?
Steve, do we get the sweep account, the 3.88%? Is that on every cash balance we have, or only on certain accounts? I mean, is that in our ARPA funds and in our economic development funds and in our general fund? Is it across the board?
I don't think it includes ARPA, because I don't know if ARPA is being swept. Is it, Pam?
Yes, ARPA is being swept. It has its own sweep account separate from the other one.
Well, you look at our financials and you see lots of different funds.
Right.
The fact is they're mostly backed up by the majority of our money by one bank account. There are some exceptions where either the state has made us have separate bank accounts, like it comes to mind, the clerk's storage funds, those are in a separate bank account. And there's 1 or 2 other ones out there. I don't remember, Pam, but they're smaller. The vast, more than 95% of our funds are in physically one bank account. Our fund sheet looks more complicated than that, but it's one account.
So we're getting the sweep amount on just about every cash balance we have. Is that correct?
Just about.
Just about. It does not include, transient dollars. They're not included in that.
Okay.
But most of the economic development dollars are. We have that one bank account at Independence Bank. It would not be included in that.
It's because it's unspent bond funds, and we've gone so many years with that one. It could, if we were collecting interest, it could be a flag for us to do that.
Okay.
But we've got that one spent down to a few $100,000 or $400,000 at this point.
Steve, there's a lot of sweeping going on here. Define that for me.
So before a year ago, Commissioner, the county had a collateral agreement with Paducah Bank. And so they had to back our cash up or keep our cash because we had more money than the federal government would insure. The FDIC deposit limit, Pam, right now for us, it's up to 300,000 or 250.
250.
250. So we had way more money than that in the bank, and they would. So we had a collateral agreement with them that ordinarily, when you take money to the bank, they start loaning it out to people. On our local government funds, they couldn't do that. Consequently, we didn't make a lot of interest off that at all. So when we changed to a sweep account, what Paducah Bank does very seamlessly to us is they spread our money out over into, Pam, do you remember offhand how many banks it is? It's 30 or 40 different banks.
At least, yes.
And it's just overnight. Our statement doesn't look any different. It just gets spread out overnight. And it's within no one bank gets above the FDIC limit. So we're completely insured. So should something disastrous with one of those banks happen, not likely. If it did, we're insured. But it also gives us much higher interest rates. So probably, I'm going to say 2 years ago, Pam, we were maybe getting 30 basis points of interest on our money. Maybe not. That might be more than what we were getting, and our financials reflected it. We saw very little interest on overnight funds. Now, last month, I think the sweep account $66,000, something like that.
Yeah.
How much?
66,000, and that was just on the main Paducah Bank account. The ARPA funds were like 40,000, so about 100,000 from the month of December.
That's great. I think
So we made $100,000 on interest last month.
That is correct.
So that's why I prefaced, we're not, when we say, all right, let's move into treasuries at 420, it's only going to be 30, when you consider fees, 30 basis points more than we're getting right now. So we've been knocking down a pretty good chunk of that for a year already.
So where does that money then show up in our reports? Does it get its own number?
Sure, it has its own account number. It's interest. It's on your revenue condition report. You need to look at 4801.
You got to go more than halfway through this document. You can't be in the appropriations. You got to get past appropriations and get into revenues.
And then ARPA has its own fund. It's Fund 84. So it would be 844801.
So you're primarily looking at 01 and 84.
Yes.
Okay.
that's good news.
So we've got a couple of other outstanding issues and that Pam and I are working through. One is what kind of liquidity do we need? So this has never been an issue to us in the past. We were lived fairly, hand to mouth. We didn't, and interest rates were low, so there was really no need to look at parking anything in an investment that lasted a year. But we still have to have some liquidity concerns because something could come up. The good part about like a treasury, you can get out of it whenever. The maturity takes a year. But if you absolutely need to back out of it, you can. You say sell, you're going to get whatever it's worth on that particular day. You could end up at a loss. You could end up at at a little, just depending on any number of factors. But I think we really haven't talked about what our risk tolerances are, but that's kind of wading into the shallow end of the pool to either be with treasuries or agency funds.
And the interest revenue, it all goes in general fund, is that right?
No,
Or does it
some
stay
of
with the account it was earned in?
the ARPA stays in Fund 84. And that's handy for us for a number of reasons.
If you decide to go to doing some bonds and some other things, how much work does that involve? Is the work in getting an extra 0.25% or so, is the extra work on the staff, is it worth the extra revenue by the time you pay the fees involved in it?
I think with one of our proposals, the fees were sufficiently low enough that I think it will be worth it, but I don't want anyone to think there's going to be a giant windfall either.
Right.
Because I do think, like for example, the ARPA dollars that we're dedicating, we're still looking at a year before we get into significant drawdown. That's sitting there. That's something that we could put on a very regulated and defined schedule and look hard at, can we squeeze a little bit more interest out of that money that's sitting there until we need it. And then we have a few other dollars floating through the budget that I think, likewise, if we're cycling these on short enough cycles, 3 months to 1 year, we'll be fine.
I'm sure in our budget that we were very conservative in interest revenue in our budget, weren't we? Because when we did our budget a year ago, we didn't know where the market was headed.
We projected $50,000 income and we're at 245,000.
Right.
On the 801. And then we projected 10,000 on the ARPA and we're at 166.
Good. Okay. Well, that's good news.
It is good news.
So how much cash do we have? How much do we want to retain in that cash? And how much do we want to then put into investment? Being conservative, like you say, I think, of course, we're required by statute. We have to invest in certain, very stable funds. We can't go to the boat. So that's out, Bill. Just scratch that off. But
I think we wait for a recommendation from Steve and Pam, but I think as Steve mentioned, the ARCA funds, probably a good chunk of that could be invested for a year. And then in our general fund balance, which is our next, which is a high balance, we could probably put a substantial amount from that in but I think we need to make sure that Pam and Steve look over the projected expenses over the next year and make sure we don't wind up investing too much.
Yeah, we don't want to overdo it and then have to sell something at a loss when it could have been sitting in sweep account, right? So we don't want to do that. Pam and I are starting to zero in on a number that we feel good about, that we can move, and then from there we can look at, review our portfolio quarterly and decide if we want to make any adjustments, because I think what we're going to end up in is what one of the proposers called a ladder approach, where you have a combination of things that are as short as 3 months and something that's as long as a year. So you're going to be making decisions on those funds every 3 months anyway. So, and we might decide we'll have sort of a stacked approach, and we can add more in or take it out as our liquidity demands. We're pretty, we understand our cycles for when we need money and when money tends to accumulate. It's very cyclical with us, and that's just due to the tax collection cycles. We get certain parts of the year we collect more money than other parts of the year, and so I think we'll come up with something that's make cogent and make sense for the organization.
I think the approach that you all are taking is critical because you want to have the least amount of risk because it's taxpayers' money. And so from what I've heard thus far, you guys are doing a good job, and just continue down that lane.
I didn't realize the sweep are now paying that much. Last I heard, it was around 1% or even less than that. Do you know what the sweep interest is for January, or do you not get that till later in the month?
Yeah, I don't get it until later in the month.
Okay, good. You've done a good job on it. We didn't. That was good news. Good information for us.
So we can go do one of two things, I guess. We can either, if you gentlemen are comfortable with letting Steve and Pam and I work through this, make a decision based on what's been said here tonight, or if you want to come back in 2 weeks and have more of a recommendation that you can vote on, makes no difference to me one way or the other. If you're good with us doing the research and being conservative minded and making a choice, we can do that. Get that done this week. If you prefer to wait a little bit, we'll wait. Get your input and final vote in 2 weeks.
I
think
I'd prefer for us to approve it just to make sure there's no. I mean, I think you'd come up with something real conservative, but if we get something in 2 weeks, what do you think, Eddie?
Well, I think that
We'll let them go.
we're members of the fiscal court. I think we should vote on it.
Right, I agree. Yeah, I think we have something in 2 weeks. That'd be great.
I'm good with that.
Okay. All right. So we'll put something together and hit it then in 2 weeks. Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Good news.
And then we've got on to court orders.
Whereas County Fiscal Court order disbanding the 911 Communication Services Oversight Committee. Whereas the 911 Communication Services Oversight Committee was created as part of an August 2021 Memorandum of Understanding MOU between the City of Paducah and McCracken County. The relevant MOU language states the city and county agree to establish a 911 Communication Services Oversight Committee, which shall guide the parties in making recommendations regarding the upgrades, pursuing funding options, and governance. Whereas the committee met regularly in carrying out its mission on November 28th, 2022, issued a document entitled 911 Communications Oversight Committee Overview and Recommendations. The committee stated on November 28th, 2022, the committee effectively completed its recommendations related to 911 upgrades, funding options, and governance. The McCracken County hereby enters this order, which, along with a similar order by the City of Paducah, will disband the committee in that the committee has completed all aspects of its assigned duties. The county wishes to express its sincere appreciation for the members' selfless donation of their time and talents over some 1.5 years. Their efforts will, for decades to come, strengthen our community's emergency communication system and thus enhance the safety of our community for all. Committee members are Chairman Kevin Caulfield, Commissioner Edwin Jones, Commissioner Carol Galt, Dr. Irvin Smith, and Jewel Jones.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Discussion? I want to say, we say in the resolution, thank you. We've got Dr. Smith here with Lone Oak Fire Department, and Commissioner Jones was on this commission. The others were not going to join us this evening. Chairman Kevin Caulfield, former Commissioner Carol Galt, and Jewel Jones. But they want to just comment that that was quite a task. And Dr. Smith, I know you were heavily engaged in it. I attended some of the meetings, and you were one of the county's appointments, as was Jewel Jones. I just want to thank you so much for all the time. You're a busy man. You put your county ahead of your personal business and whatever interests you had, and donated a lot of time and effort. And I'll tell you, when I first started to consider who to put on this, if you weren't the first, you were right there at the top. I think probably you're the first name that I came up with. And just like in our you're on the Lone Oak Fire Department, volunteer fire department, and so this is nothing new for you to donate your time, energy, and talents to your community. And just want to, on behalf of the near 70,000 people in the county, including those in the city, thank you for all that you did, and for Commissioner Jones as well. Commissioner Jones has a law practice, or he did before he started this job. I think he still got it. He just doesn't make much money at it anymore because he's engaged in this all the time. But the community service. So I've been in it for a good while, but I've always gotten paid for mine. So when you do it to go above and beyond and do it just to help the community, that stands out, and you deserve. I know it's not required. You don't do it for all the glamour, all the glamour, that came with doing this. You did it knowing the headaches and all that, and you still did it. And so I want to appreciate you for doing that. And if you had anything to say, Dr. Smith, you're on. There you go.
Well, sir, thank you. Thank you. It was an honor to serve. We had a good group. We had a good leader in Kevin, and we had great contribution from Jewel and Carol, and we always had Eddie there, who was going to ask the difficult questions, and that was good. And public safety is critical, and the safety of our law enforcement and fire and EMS responders that provide that safety is really important. So it was an honor for me to participate, and I thank you for those kind words.
And Commissioner Jones as well. Thank you for all that you've done. Anything you want to say?
Well, I want to shout out to Kevin Caulfield and Jewel Jones and Dr. Smith and Carol Galt. This, I've served on several committees in the last 4 years. I think this was the hardest, and it was hard for me because the subject matter was so foreign to me at the beginning. And it also involves a lot of money. And so it's scary trying to anticipate and build something that the public needs and expects, but that is going to cost so much money. So we've got to get it right. And so I do want to thank my fellow members for their work on this committee. Dr. Smith, I think they're telling us we're done, or they don't want us to meet anymore, but who knows? They may call us back into to the next game before it's all over with. Who knows?
I think that's what I heard. We might be like that. We might be like that Godfather movie. They may call us back.
Yeah.
Right. Last minute.
But it won't bother me if they replace me.
Well, all those comments.
Them either.
Yeah, all those comments was made about Commissioner Jones and Dr. Smith certainly go to Ms. Galt and Kevin Caulfield and Jewel Jones as well. So everybody pulled together and did a great job and got us moved forward to where we need to be. Our next thing really will probably be to come up with the, since this committee, the 911 committee, I think is what we called it, Communication Services Oversight Committee, I think it was. And once you complete your mission, I think you're thanked, and we move on to whatever else we need to do. And that's going to be, I think, putting together a committee to forward the interlocal agreement, take all the work that's been done by this committee and put it into a working contract on how we're going to go forward with the city, get this emergency communications system together for both the city and county benefit. And so that'll be a chore as well. So, anybody else say anything you want to say on that? Okay. Also, so I don't know, probably several of the folks on that committee maybe have already received McCracken County Court Awards, but we have one for each of the committee members for simply says in recognition of activities, efforts, and commitment benefiting our community. The McCracken County Fiscal Court presents this court award to each of you, including the city appointees, for all your efforts. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get those to you. Let's see, B, court order B.
We still need to vote, Judge. We had a
Oh,
motion.
oh,
and a
we didn't
second. It
vote.
hasn't voted.
Okay.
So
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right, B.
It is ordered to amend the order of January 9th, 2023 to pay Jamie Husky, McCracken County Clerk, for the county's share of the clerk's compensation for preparation of the 2022 real estate and tangible tax bills, replacing the amount of $10,186.50 with the amount of $5,093.25.
So move.
second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. C,
It is ordered to receive and record the certificate of no appeal received from the state local debt officer pertaining to general obligation bonds series 2022 for the Barkley Regional Airport project.
So moved.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. D,
It is ordered to pay the invoices listed below to Barkley Regional Airport Authority for the new terminal expenses in the amount of $5,150. This is one half of the total invoices of $10,300 and is pursuant to the interlocal cooperation agreement dated August 28th, 2021 between City of Paducah, Kentucky, the County of McCracken County, Kentucky, and the Barkley Regional Airport Authority. Invoice MCFCIFE 1003 dated 1/5/2023, $1,250. Invoice MCFC 011723 dated 1/17/2023, $3,900.
your motion.
So moved.
Second. All right, any discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to vote for this, Judge. There's still some more expenses in there for artwork, and I didn't think that we should be using our money to pay for artwork at the airport, but I'll vote for this because there's another expense in there.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. E,
It is ordered that $52,003.30 from the transient room tax escrow fund be transferred to the City of Paducah for bond payment on the Convention Center Series 2017.
So moved.
Or I'll second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. F,
It is ordered that the general bank account is debited the amount of $198.45 for checks ordered for the sports complex project account.
So move.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. All right, 6A ordinance.
It is hereby ordered and that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2023-02 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2021-12 as amended by modifying the fees charged for electrical plan reviews and inspections to ensure compliance with inspection specifications of the Kentucky Building Code as set forth in 815 KAR 7:120 and the Kentucky Residential Code as set forth in 815 KAR 7:125 to ensure McCracken County's fees are commensurate with those of comparable jurisdictions and to authorize the fiscal court to contract with a certified electrical inspector for the performance of electrical plan reviews and inspections. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statute Section 198B.060, the Kentucky Building Code of 185 KAR 7:120, and the Kentucky Residential Code of 1815 KAR 7:125, and operates to amend the fees charged for electrical plan review and inspection services to ensure that such services are in compliance with the provisions of the aforesaid building codes, that the fees for such services are commensurate with comparable local county governments, and authorizes the McCracken County Fiscal Court to contract with a certified electrical inspectors for the performance of electrical plans and reviews. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2023-02. Public inspection. Ordinance number 2023-02 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. B.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2023-01 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 2023-01. An ordinance amending McCracken County ordinance number 2022-04 and setting forth a current salary classification table for court security officers in the McCracken County Sheriff's Department. Summary. The action effectuated by the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 91A and Sections 65.210 to 65.314. The present ordinance formalizes the amending of McCracken County Ordinance number 2022-04 and setting forth a current salary classification table for court security officers of the McCracken County Sheriff's Department. Certification. It is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2023-01. Public inspection. Ordinance number 2023-01 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. C.
It is hereby ordered that pursuant to KRS Chapter 67, the second reading and adoption of ordinance number 2023-03 shall be conducted in summary format as follows. McCracken County, Kentucky, McCracken County Fiscal Court, ordinance number 2023-03, an ordinance creating a compensation and classification system for the McCracken County Clerk's Office. Summary. The action effectuated in the present ordinance is authorized by Kentucky Revised Statutes, Chapter 91A and Sections 65.210 to 65.314. The present ordinance formalizes setting forth a current salary classification table for employees of the McCracken County Clerk's Office. Certification, it is hereby certified by the McCracken County Fiscal Court that the present summary represents an accurate official statement of the main points of and contents of ordinance number 2023-03. Public inspection, ordinance number 2023-03 shall be available for public inspection in its whole and complete form in the McCracken County Judge Executive's office during ordinary business hours.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Well, this is consistent with what we've done in some of the other departments, and I think it'd be wise to do it really throughout, other than, well, there's some exceptions probably, but giving the employees some sense of where they'll be in pay, so it can always be adjusted on the front end and adjusted throughout the chart, but let somebody see what's my pay going to be in 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah.
Be perhaps COLAs on top of it. At least I think it's a wise thing to do, pay scale, to give people some notice of where they'll be. So, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That carries. Don't know of any executive session need, do we, Steve D? All right. I feel like we need to recognize our county attorney here. He looks all nice, got a tie on and everything here.
I can at least look the part, Judge.
See how he's got his hair up tight and neat, just like our prior county attorney.
Maybe there'll be something to show for it eventually, Judge.
Well, I hope things are going well with you.
They're great.
I've heard some good things and I haven't heard a single bad thing. So that's always good.
Hadn't gotten to you yet, but
Well, okay.
what's wrong with it?
I think they call that the honeymoon period.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, he's still in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah.
You
Well,
got that right, Commissioner.
I know we're still in a strong position on our county attorney. That's it's obviously extremely important to have a good person in there, and we do. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Judge.
All right. Anybody want to go home?
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right. All in favor, aye.
All right.
We're gone. Thank you, folks.